Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here for our second part of our preview for the weekend's games. We're going to focus on the other non-South Africa games that are happening this weekend. There's a lot to sink our teeth into. England are playing New Zealand, Australia playing Ireland, Scotland is playing Argentina on Sunday. You've got matches for Wales and France. You've got, actually, as we speak, a World Cup qualification tournament happening. Shaun, actually, let's quickly start there because Belgium just beat Brazil 30 points to 27. They got a bonus point. It seems like it was a crazy game where Belgium was in the lead, then Brazil took over. I mean, Brazil, remember, are the team that replaced Paraguay because Paraguay was ineligible. They played some players that were ineligible to play for them. So
Every World Cup cycle.
and it's always a Spanish-speaking country as well.
Now we know.
Maybe the rules aren't so clear in Spanish. We need to get a translator onto it. So yeah, so no one really expected anything from Brazil. We all thought, okay, they'd be sort of the whipping boys of this tournament. But now they were, it was then tick for tact. Belgium then lost a player to a red card because a player kicked out. I think the prop kicked out on the Brazilian lock. And it looked like Belgium were kind of melting down, but they won it in the end with a try. Like they were losing 27-25, like with 5 minutes to go. They score a try, they win the game. And with Samoa now leading as we speak, 19 points to 0 against Namibia, it seems like now next weekend, Belgium versus Samoa is basically for all the marbles.
Yeah. Oh, listen, like Belgium doing it when everyone wrote off Belgium. I think everyone was looking at Samoa and Namibia, and
Yeah.
it's just because we're so used to seeing them in the World Cups. But then Belgium go and do that. This comeback that they've made has been huge. The only problem is, I don't know what their prop depth is like, but generally in tier two sides, your prop depth is not very great. So
Yeah.
you get a red card. I doubt it'll be overturned.
Especially
Cough,
for
cough.
a kick.
Yeah, so they'll be under pressure next week. Samoa, it was always a question about who they were going to pick for this tournament or who they could pick. Okay, because there's always those conversations, and then how they would turn up. Like, would it be a case of, oh, we're not up for this, or we don't want it, or there's too much political interference, and like, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. But they've come out all guns blazing. And if it's a straight shootout, I think this game against Namibia is the one that could potentially derail them. And then that will change things for Belgium next week. I think if Samoa know that they got to play Belgium and all they got to do is win and it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? They can draw or win, then I don't think it matters. I think it matters if they perhaps slip up today and then are forced to chase it big time next week.
Yeah. Well, they lead 19-0 at the moment, so it should be in the
Yeah.
bag. But yeah, we've seen crazier things, especially from these two teams. So there's still a possibility that both Namibia and Samoa aren't in the World Cup next or 2 years' time, which would be insane. I mean, I think both of them have been constants like since 1995, essentially. So that's going to be crazy. So that's something to keep an eye on. We get to the games on Saturday. I think probably the game of the weekend, Shaun, is England versus New Zealand. So that happens straight after the South Africa game. It doesn't clash with any. I think we do have one clash.
At 10 o'clock at night.
Well
And
done.
France, Fiji, it pisses me off. I'm sorry. Like, that is a great game to watch because, like, Fiji love to throw it around. Half the Fijians play in France anyway. So
Yeah.
there's vibes. Like, uh, and it's such a bummer.
And
And
Ireland
and
playing
it's
Australia at the
Ireland,
same time.
Australia. I know. Ah, like you're gonna watch the first 15 minutes of Ireland, Australia and know what the score is gonna be. Like you know whether Ireland are going to trounce them or whether Australia are going to be in the mix, and that'll dictate how you watch the rest of the next hour and a half because maybe you'll flick over, I don't know,
Yeah.
two TVs.
Look, France Fiji gives me the vibe of it could be a 40-20 type of game. It could be like last minute tries. So yeah,
40-39,
also possible. So yeah,
two
like
red cards, a, a, a prop playing in the midfield.
yeah, so you want to watch that game, but we had to make sure that Wales Japan have their own time slot, at 20 to 8. So that's why we did that. Um we have England versus New Zealand. Shaun, this is kind of like for me, I'm calling it the escalator game. the winner here can claim to be, obviously, since the Springboks have beaten France, Ireland doesn't look as strong as maybe they did a year or two ago. This is the winner here can claim that they're the heirs to the Springbok throne. Like they're the second best team in the world. They're the ones that can take the Springboks down. I mean, New Zealand literally beat them at least a few weeks or a few months ago. And they're the ones that are sort of next up. And, the other ones will have to catch up to them. The loser is now sort of maybe at the bottom of that top four, top five, top tier of rugby conversation where, obviously I think for both teams, they're quite similar in that we have a lot of questions about their coaches. We have a lot of questions about their tactics. We have a lot of questions about their selections. We're still not sure if certain players are playing their best positions, but they seem to be winning. They seem to be still trading out results. So, yeah, I think this is a big game for both sides, for both coaching staffs to prove certain things like, okay, we don't need like a proper six in England's case. Or for New Zealand's case, you know what, we can go with, the Tupaia Proctor midfield combo. We can, play DMAC off the bench. For England, it's we can do these things to our back three, and our midfield. So I think there's so much you can get stuck into for this game.
Yeah. It's interesting that I'm gonna just put another spin on this escalator game. It's very much a case of who can afford to lose this game.
Yeah.
I think England can afford to lose it. I think New Zealand can't. I think Ray is going to be under uh, a lot more pressure. You can spin it a little bit, but I think Razor would be under more pressure if he lost it, even though it's away from home against a decent England side. England, you're right. We've had a lot to say about Borthwick, his selections, the 38 team squad announcements he makes each week, the merry-go-round of coaches. But there's no doubt about it that he's building a squad and a core of players together that are comfortable with winning. And they're comfortable with winning some tough games as well. There are a couple of positions, like I think there's probably four players that you would change if you wanted to name your first choice 15 to play in a World Cup final. I think there's maybe three or four players that you would change if you got the choice of fitness and all that. But they're growing depth. There's opportunity for a few people. There are a couple guys that are coming back from injury next week, like Furbank's coming back next week, I believe. So that'd be big for them. Having said that, Freddie Stewart, this is a great game for him to play. Like the All Blacks are not going to dance around him too much. Like it's not like a Colby and an Aronson on the wings and the back three. So I think there's opportunity for England to grow in this game. And I think the All Blacks are vulnerable and they're going to be under pressure. But yeah, there's something brewing in England. There really is.
Yeah, we hate to say this. Trust us, we really do hate to say this, but England is just, I think what the main thing that I think Borthwick has done is made England hard to beat. Like,
Yes.
I think most of even their losses the last year and a half have all been games either they should have won or that they played probably well enough for 60 minutes to win. Like, maybe except for the Springbok game last year in November. I think all the other games have been, they were well in it, or, they kind of gave it away in the end, or, maybe.
All against New Zealand as well. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you. Last year, they should have beaten New Zealand at least two of the three times. At
yeah.
least.
Two of the four. I think they played them three times.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. They
So,
could at least maybe even three out of four.
yeah. So that's the thing with England. Set pieces, I think, doing well. It will be very interesting to see the set piece battle because I think both teams, yeah, I think apart from South Africa and France, both teams would be very much happy to claim like best scrums in the world after those two, like, England starting with Hayes and Baxter, and then have Genge and Stewart off the bench. You have De Groot and Newell and Williams are going to be doing damage for the All Blacks. So England have got the set piece. The kicking game is really sharp. The defense is quite good, if not sometimes a bit lucky. They get themselves into the 22 and make opportunities. They're maybe not as efficient in taking opportunities. So it's such an interesting test for them. I think, Sean, I'm in the opposite side of, I think there's a must win for England. Like, this is now the validation of the last 12 months. And this is the big scope you need just to keep, I mean, obviously we know how English media and English fans are, just to give enough to the fans for the next few months or so. Because I think from that, you can then be like, okay, we actually can win the Six Nations. We actually can be a competitor for the World Cup. And I think England want to get to a stage, in the next year or so where the only peak that is remaining is the Springboks. Not in a situation where can we still beat New Zealand? Do we know if we can beat Ireland and France? They need to sort of get past that and at least make New Zealand a, flip of a coin type of game, as it seems like Ireland and France are kind of becoming for them. Like, on their day, they can beat France. On the day, they can beat Ireland. But now especially because of the context of last year and them not winning those games, they need to actually just win it now. And also, I don't need this New Zealand team to be a Grand Slam winner, because this would be probably the worst Grand Slam winning team in a while, maybe ever. So I think for the good of rugby, we can't have this sort of like middle average New Zealand team win a Grand Slam, because we all know Wales is not going to stop them. So England's pretty much our last hope here. So I think this is the pressure's on England. And there's a few things that I think New Zealand can test some of the things that England have done, like playing Pep at blindside flank. Like, I mean, I don't doubt his size. I think I just doubt some of the other things, because especially without Chesham at 5, you've got Coles a bit more of a looser lock. So I think for New Zealand, there's an opportunity for them to really play a tight physical game, because you've got Barrett back, you've got Holland, you've got Parker. Let those guys graft and try to see if these pretty boys that want to run, like, are you able to withstand, a physical assignment against, the All Blacks? The midfields, I think this is the midfield that I would choose normally anyway. And then, obviously no Freeman, you have Roebuck. Roebuck is obviously going to be testing Fainga'anuku in the high balls, how good he is under the high ball. There is some spots here and some things that we've been debating, I think, for the last few months, where both teams can get tested. And even on the New Zealand side, like, you now have a good opportunity to see if Quinto Paya, can he sort of own the room here against Dingwall and Lawrence? Can Billy Proctor look good here? With Leroy Carter going as Faye Waboso and chasing him around. Like you said, I think even with Freddie Stewart on the other side, except for Will Jordan, everyone else will probably try to run over you than run around you. So this is a good opportunity for Freddie Stewart to sort of earn some credit there. And the benches, I think, for both, England have kind of packed their bench. They've tried to do obviously the box 6-2 type of situation and packing their finishers. Like, I don't know if I would have benched Tom Curry for this game. I probably would have started him, because this is a game that Tom Curry plays 18 minutes with a broken hip and a broken, fibula, and you don't know how he survived, but he made 63 tackles and 6 turnovers. But, you have Curry coming off the bench and Genge and Stewart. Whereas with New Zealand, maybe New Zealand have the better starting team, maybe by a small margin. But I think England has the better bench. So there's so much here I think you can go with. I don't know, Sean, if there's a particular matchup you're looking at for this game.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's almost like all of it. It really is. There's so much going on. Like, I'll start in the loose trio. I'll start at lock. Okay. I agree with you on Coles. I sound like a bit of a broken record, but Coles is a lock that can play flank, but they're looking for someone to be mobile. I don't understand how Ted Hill hasn't got a look in, like, because he's big, he's strong.
Yeah.
Then put Ted Hill at blindside flank. Like he's big, he's strong, he's a fetcher, he's fast, he's skillful. Like he really covers all those bases, but he's also a line-out jumper. So there's that. Pepper is excellent and has been for Bath, so I have no problem with Pepper being there. But the loose trio looks a little bit weird. Like there's a this is the whole thing about Borthwick is I don't understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. And I granted that I have a bee in my bonnet about not Ted Hill not being there. Like it really pisses me off because I rate him and I think he's good enough to do what they want from their loosies. Like it's not like it's someone completely different. Like they're trying to reinvent the wheel with their loosies, you know. So there's that. The bench is interesting. Like, I think Curry's on the bench so he can be on the field with a Cunningham South and a Pollock. Like, as experienced as Pollock is, he's inexperienced. He's done a lot in his short career, but he's inexperienced. If push comes to shove, you want to have a Tom Curry there.
Yeah.
Like, or you want to have an Underhill there. You know what I mean? So I think that's where that balance comes in, and I understand it. Um, Dingwall's not doing it for me. So I there's two options that England have at 12. They can gamble a little bit with a tried and tested pairing of Ajomo and Lawrence, which have done really well. And granted, Max Ajomo didn't have the best game for England A last week.
Mm.
So there's that. And dare I say it, if we're going to start George Ford at 10, having Owen Farrell there at 12 would not be the worst idea. Those, I believe, are viable options, but they don't really have anything else outside of that for 12 unless they move Lawrence to 12 and then put someone else at 13. But I think Lawrence's best position is 13. So if you've got a Dingwall, play him. I'm not sold on Dingwall yet. Um, but the best part about it is George Ford is there and
Yeah.
he's quality. Um, Faye Weboso is brilliant. He'll be able to sort it out. And then Roebuck plays the Freeman role. Roebuck's also in form. I don't really know how last week went for him. I didn't really watch the game. The bench is a fun space, but that bench is very much you've got a very clear role to do. You've got a business to do. You must go and do it. Like we're going to start, we're going to be in this game, we're going to tire them out, and you guys are going to go on and absolutely polish them off. Like you have to come out. I wouldn't be surprised if this bench comes on at 60 minutes, all the forwards. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they palm squad it and just like, put them all on and then just go and steamroll them. Like Genge, Curry, Cunningham South, Pollock, like it's brilliant. If they're all working, it'll be hard to see New Zealand winning. If they come on when like the game's still in the balance
Yeah.
or England have a little bit of a lead. I think Leicester onto the All Blacks now. I think Leicester Fanganuku has lost his spot at 13 for a couple defensive lapses, which is something that, as a good attacker as he is, I think is pretty handy on defense. And I think it's probably a better shot to have him play in the midfield still. I think Billy Potts is probably seen as a better defensive 13. They could really have moved Jordan to the wing and moved Mackenzie to 15 and left Fanganuku at 13. Like it's not too much of an injury movement because Carter can play on left or right. It doesn't matter. So there's that. The All Blacks have the big boys back. They've got a lot of hard grafters. Peter Lakai is coming on form. Parker just does a lot of graft. Holland, it proves me wrong each week. Like he's just doing the job, and then Barrett coming back. Like I'm interested to see how Barrett and Holland dovetail because Holland has taken up a different role since Barrett's not been there. Like he really has embraced it, and I'd like to see him continue that with Barrett because both of them flipping hard workers.
Yeah.
Then Quintapi's got to, I believe that if he's going to do it, he's going to do it at Twickenham. Like Dingwall's the guy to do it with. Dingwall's going to want to absolutely smoke him. And I think there'll be a couple of really good physical clashes there. But Tupai probably would do better this game if he had Nuku outside him because of that attacking threat that he offers. Like, I really think that that balance there would have been great from an attacking perspective, specifically with Dingwall in mind. Um, yeah, and then I don't know if Will Jordan's a 15, but we've had this conversation a couple of times. And then, yeah, Cam Roygaard, Bowden Barrett, super happy. Roygaard's in ridiculous form. The Anton Lienert-Brown call up for me is big. And that to me is probably more of a 12 backup than a 13 backup. That's how I look at that. Like, I find him, there's a very good chance that we'll see Lienert-Brown at 12 and Nuku at 13 at some stage, or maybe even Quintupai at 13 and Lienert-Brown at 12. I don't know. Like, they actually got quite a few options at 13. And then you've just got to bring Damien McKenzie on sooner rather than later. I think that's probably the most important thing. I'm very surprised that Razor didn't start McKenzie. He had an incredible game.
Yeah.
There's no doubting that he's a good starter of a test match, but having started and then being dropped essentially to come on against Scotland, do that, play that way. Those three massive plays of that 50-22, then scoring off it and then going on to make the kick is something that you probably want in your starting lineup. Like, Mackenzie's a guy that builds into a game. He's not a kind of guy that you can make him angry that he's been dropped and then he comes on and gives you 180%. Like, Mackenzie's a good solid 80 to 90% player the whole way through, like a good diesel engine. He's just gonna go, go, go. So I would have started him for this test.
Yeah. Look, I think I kind of don't mind it. I mean, I think ideally, like we've said before, like DMAC at 15 makes probably the most sense to me, I think, for balance. But I think DMAC is also, I kind of see him as a better impact player. I think if he has to sort of do more and sort of run the game more, I think that's when you see some of the mishaps and mistakes that he does. Like, it's actually quite weird. Both him and Marcus Smith are on a similar point in their careers of, I think they thought by now they would be the number 10 for their countries, but some old guy just doesn't want to move on for both of them and just stopping them from taking that on. So I think I mean, I think it'd be reductive just to be like, okay, it's on who performs better between Marcus Smith and Damien McKenzie. It's probably on which forwards are performing better, and then obviously gives the platform for those backline players to play well. But I think, yeah, both in those last 20 minutes can really put some pressure on either team, and depending on who's the one chasing, like, you don't want against a tiring team, someone like Marcus Smith running at you or Damien McKenzie. Speaking of the 10s, probably, I mean, Pollard is in this conversation. I think Sasha's in this conversation. But Ford and Bowden Barrett, kicking out of hand, are probably two of the best in the world. Like, they can kick all sorts of ways. Obviously, Ford is probably the master drop goal kicker in the world right now. Like, they can kick long, they can kick short, they can, put pressure on you, they can sort of clear, they can do anything. And I think this is going to be a big battle here for this game, because I think Borthwick has trained England well with the kicking game. They got schooled by Bowden Barrett that first test in July, if you remember that. And excuse me, I think that's kind of been the theme in these games, is in the second half, New Zealand just know how to get themselves into the right areas to take the points and then force England to chase the game in the last 10 minutes or so. So I don't think Ford did play that last game in Twickenham. He missed the penalty, if I'm not mistaken. So Ford now has a chance to I think Ford is much better starting a game than off the bench. So I think Ford has the opportunity to really set the tone for England. I'm very interested to see how both of these teams play. I think it's going to be kind of like the roles change. I think New Zealand has to play tight and try to play territory and try to sort of grind it out. England, they're the ones that should be playing with pace, because you have the 6-2 bench, you have it's hard to say this again. against New Zealand of all teams, but I think you have the better athletes of like, forwards that can run hard. You've got Ben Earl, you've got Henry Pollard, you've got Alex Coles. Like, you've got people that can run and run all day. I mean, I'm not saying don't kick. You've got Roebuck and Faywell Bosa chasing those, do that, but try to add the pace into the game and try to sort of lift up the intensity to a level that, maybe can test New Zealand. But the thing is, maybe the thing to learn from the Springboks victory in Wellington is there's no real use trying to do that from the first minute. You kind of need to sort of beat up New Zealand a little bit, and then the reward can come for you in the last like 20 to 30 minutes. So yeah, I think there's so many ways this game can go because both teams aren't really sure of themselves. They're not really sure of their position. They're not really sure of their selections. They're not really sure of their tactics. They kind of change week to week. I think Borthwick adapts the most to another team's tactics out of any coach. Razor, we don't even know if he's adapting or if he's just making it up on the fly. This could really go anywhere. If you tell me, Shaun, New Zealand wins by 30, 40 points, I can believe that. If you tell me England wins by 30, 40 points, I can also believe that.
Yeah. You can see both those outcomes. And ironically, I mean, we could probably sit here and chat for 10 minutes and tell you how New Zealand won by 30 points and tell you how England won by 30 points. Like, this is where they did it, and this is where it went wrong for the opposition. Like, it does seem that obvious.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this will definitely be probably the game of the weekend. Let's move to the Ireland-Australia game. Um, yeah, both teams now sort of coming from some pretty dodgy results the last few weeks and have made a few changes. It's a must win for both teams, honestly, because I think this is where I think both teams, the team that loses, your year can really go downhill if you don't get this game. So Ireland made a few changes. The big one, the headline one is Sam Prendergast is at fly half instead of Crowley. You have Doris playing at 7 because of no Van der Fleer. So Conan comes in at 8. Paddy McCarthy starting.
Josh van der Fleer, I believe it was in the Six Nations in 2021 was the last time he didn't play. He didn't start for Ireland, something along
Yeah,
those lines. Like years. And the
I
same with
think,
Porter.
yeah.
Porter's also been like 30 straight games or something.
Yeah, and he's now on the bench. I mean, he'll be feeling weird of not having to play 72 minutes like he usually does because Ian Healy or some 19-year-old from Leinster schools has to replace him in the last few minutes. So
I forgot about that.
he's gonna be like shaking on the bench, being like, I don't know what to do with myself with all this free time.
They must get him like a beach deck chair and he can sit out there and just drink a cocktail while he does nothing. It's going to be the most weirdest experience for him
It
to be a fan.
it'll be ironic that McCarthy gets like either injured or red card in the first 10 minutes.
That does a cough in the warm-up and Porter plays 80.
That'll be probably the thing there. Like, so you've got McCloskey and Henshaw in the centers, Hansen's on at fullback. The bench is interesting. You've got Nick Timoney and Cian Prendergast both on the bench. So now all 4 provinces are in for Ireland. So everyone's happy. It's a strange team. I mean, some of it is injuries. No Ringrose, no Van der Fleer. No, McCarthy obviously has a long-term injury. Keenan's out long-term. You have Hansen that has come back, and McCloskey is now fit. So, yeah, I think on the Ireland side, Shaun, I'm a bit uncertain in some ways because there's some things that are, I think there's some things where Farrell's like, look, let's just see how these players go. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if against the Springboks, this team changes with 4 or 5 people again, with Porter coming in and Crowley coming in, etc., etc. But yeah, there's some youngsters that have some good chances here, McCarthy and Prendergast especially. You've got Cian Prendergast and Timoney that can have a really good opportunity to make a big impact off the bench. You've got some older players like Aki that's obviously also coming off the bench. You've got Hansen at 15. There's a lot of weirdness to this team.
You have nailed it. I'm looking. Weirdness is a great way to describe it. If I had to pick weaknesses in this side, just from having a look, I would say Paddy McCarthy potentially is a weakness,
Yeah,
but not really.
he's
But
young.
there is potential there. James Lowe and Mac Hansen are weaknesses for me because Hansen has come back from injury, so kind of don't know what's happening, and Lowe hasn't been great. Then on the bench, Bundy Arky's potentially a weakness because of form. But Ken Prendergast, I like him, but if this is tight, is he the right guy? And Nick Timoney, I quite rate, but he's never been given a chance. This is the first time he's played a tier one side in a test match in, I don't know, the last 5 games he hasn't, I don't
Yeah,
think. Or I think he's only sixth or seventh cap. I think his first one was against Argentina. There are a couple of gaps, but weird is the better way of putting it. I think it's the nicer way of putting it. Like there's a bit of confusion here. It's almost like Farrell's. We always saw him as being relatively innovative and stuff, but then he had a squad, but then he Heineken made it and never went outside that squad. So he didn't like bring in guys, and it was difficult. And then he was staying committed to players that weren't necessarily on form and maybe weren't suiting the game plan, or they designed the game plan around player X and it didn't suit Ireland. I don't know. So there's that. So now he's not brought guys in, and then you kind of like, well, that doesn't look right. So it's very weird. Such a great word for this because it is strange. Um, the loose trio is fun, but Doris not playing at 8 is weird as well. Like both Conan and Doris are excellent eights. And that really is all you need in Test rugby. Two really good eights. Okay, one starts and one benches. When you play both your eights, there's problems. Like yeah, it's disruptive. If Ireland loses this game, they are going to be shitting themselves for next week. Like
yeah,
they really are. Like if Ireland, I don't care what South Africa does against Italy. If Ireland lose this game, they are going to be under the most amounts of pressure. It's not going to be a case of, oh, watch out for Ireland. They've come off a loss. It's not going to be that. It's going to
no,
be,
yeah.
Farrell, you're in trouble.
They need a win. I don't know if it's like Farrell's fighting for his job, but I think it'll be relatively close because then you haven't won against any of the rugby championship teams essentially this November if they lose to Australia. So
That's true.
that's a lot of pressure. Well, obviously they didn't play Argentina, but
They didn't beat them.
yeah, sure. But then I mean, it's not like Australians have also followed this up with they've got
Equally
a
weird.
weird squad of their own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frost is on the bench, which I just don't agree with. But they have Hooper and Jeremy Williams starting at lock. James O'Connor's now at 10. Um, Look, I know 10 has been a big issue for Australia this whole year. And, they played Carter Gordon last week, and now they're back to JOC. Edmund's on the bench. I don't know what's going on, honestly. Dalgunu's now playing in the back three with Jorgensen and Potter. So when you thought, okay, there's a back three opportunity here because Hansen has to now play fullback instead of Osborne there. Now you're also doing weird things in the back three as well. Like at least you have a faster back three than Ireland, but I don't know if you have a better back three. So then they bench, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, Frost, I don't really love having Frost there. You have Edmed, you have Killaway on the bench. I'm not 1,000% sure if this is the team Schmidt needs to play after losing to Italy. Because look, there's no way of hiding behind the Italy result. It was a disaster. They can't lose to Italy, especially after all the progress that they've made this year. Now it's looking quite funny in the daylight. Like you've now gone after, let's say, from the New Zealand games, you've lost the two New Zealand games. You've just beaten Japan, like a Japan team that South Africa beat by 60 points with their second team, even though you played your own second team. You lost to England. You lost to Ireland. You now only have Ireland and France left for the rest of the year. You genuinely could be on like a pretty big losing streak or 6 losses in 7 games if you don't turn this around. And I don't think France are going to give Australia a chance to beat them next week instead after they got beaten by the Springboks. So it needs to be now.
Yeah. Joe Schmidt's going to be doing the walk of shame. I looked at the side and I'm like, I'm going to just go with the backs. Like, I have no problem with James O'Connor starting. My issue is that Carter Gordon should be playing, but I'll get to the bench now. I thought that they would start Carter Gordon again, to be very honest. I'm a big fan of Dagunu. He has grown on me,
Yeah.
but I'm loving. I don't know why. I like him so much. I'm happy for him there. Midfield's great. Yeah, it's good. Their loose trio is good. I agree wholeheartedly on Frost. And I was looking at this, and both the sides came out at roughly the same time. So I was having a look at them, and I got to Australia second. And I was going down the list, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I got to the bench. And Ryan Lonergan and Tane Edmed are a huge worry for me. I looked at that and I literally was just like, fuck, that's the game there. So I don't think Lonergan's too bad. And Edmed, I don't know what it is. Maybe he's not good enough. Maybe I'm jumping on the bandwagon with everyone. But I'm going to flip that around and just say Carter Gordon should be playing this game. I really feel he should be playing. I don't think he's injured. He should be playing. And I just don't think that their bench is good enough.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, having Kellaway start and Jorgensen on the bench might have been a good shot if you wanted to really impact it. But Australia in a different space, they don't have like a bench of impactors. You know, you can look at some teams and go, that's a good call. I see what you're doing, England. You are going to bring everyone on within a 5 minute period, and your plan is this in the second half with your bench. It looks like the bench has been named to because they have to name 23 players. Like, like there's that. So for me, Carter Gordon should have played. And then yeah, like the starting lineup, I don't have too much of an issue with.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's good enough. Wilson needs to up his game. He needs to pay for John Smith to fly to London or fly to Turin, and then he needs to go to Turin and he needs to have a meeting with John Smith and Sia Khaleesi about how to talk to referees and be a nice guy and all that sort of shit. Because he needs to do something. Like he needs to get the upper hand. And unfortunately, Ireland don't have a sexton who could potentially get under the ref's skin. Like Ireland, Caelan Doris is brilliant. He's a great captain.
He can get a bit.
He does get a bit chirpy, I suppose,
Yeah.
eh? So
I mean,
maybe
not as
you got
bad
to
as Wilson, to be fair.
no, no, not even close, and not as bad as Sexton when he's
Of
having
course.
when Ireland are playing badly. So I think there's that. So it's going to be a lot of really hard work, and you have to bring in the Lonergan and the Edmed into like they have to be brought in at the best time
Yeah.
for themselves when the team is on the front foot, where things are going well, it's confident. If you bring them on under pressure, like when you bring a hooker on when he's got a line out on his own 5 meter, and you're like, geez, guys, could you not have waited
Thanks.
until the next one? Like, it's so silly. So there's that. I think it's going to take a little bit of mental gymnastics to make sure that the bench comes on at the right time, specifically in 9 and 10 replacements.
Yeah.
Edmed's due a good game though. Like if he's got it in him, he's due one soon because he hasn't really shot the lights out. So wouldn't it be mad if he did it to beat Ireland? That would change everything for everybody.
Yeah. Look, I think Farrell kind of did the same thing against New Zealand, where he started with Crowley and Gibson Park, and then had Casey and Prendergast off the bench. And I don't think the loss is on the halfbacks against New Zealand, but I think you want maybe to combine experience with inexperience in that situation. So you want, if your 9 is inexperienced, have a more experienced 10 and vice versa. And obviously it works out that they're club teammates to pair Prendergast with JGP and Casey with Crowley. So I think that's what Schmidt should have done here and said, okay, we'll start with Edmed, just play 45 minutes. Just get us to sort of 45, 50 minutes. Then JOC, you finish it off with Lonegran. You can at least sort of nanny him to the end of the game. Um, because Gordon at least is there at the starting. If you start with Gordon and Edmed, and I mean they're obviously club teammates themselves. I guess the one positive is that Lonegran and Edmed aren't 21 like Sam Prendergast is. They're in their mid-20s. They've seen a lot of Super Rugby. They've got enough experience where this shouldn't overawe them too much, but you also don't necessarily want to throw them in where, Australia 10 points behind or even 3 points ahead and have to sort of keep the game. So I think that kind of points to Gordon and James O'Connor going to play as many minutes as possible. And yeah, look, I mean, I think O'Connor.
O'Connor's great off the bench as well. Like,
Yeah, and I was just about to say that O'Connor's fitness, because he hasn't really played 80 minutes that much the last year or so, like we saw in the South Africa tour, like he kind of just tired and sort of cramped up literally. So I'm wondering for O'Connor's sake, if it's not better to have him like be the manager off the bench, he's not phased by if you're 10 points behind or 10 points ahead. So that's also you brought in Carter Gordon into the squad without playing any rugby union for a reason. Why play him only in the Italy game and then not play him? Are you gonna play him at Stade de France against France? I wouldn't do that. Like again, I don't think we understand how much of that France team is going to be absolutely raring to go against Australia and trying to make a statement. Like, I don't know if that's the best place to put Carter Gordon. So it's a weird team. The big positive for Australia, though, is Lenny Kitau's back. So that improves their team at least by a notch or two. That's the big difference between the last two games against England and Italy. Ikitau can genuinely sort of put their team up there. I mean, look, McCloskey was great against New Zealand. Henshaw's obviously been a stalwart, but Ikitan Swali must be licking their lips in that sort of center battle. Yeah, I think this game, yeah, I think it could be a tight game, which I don't think will favor Ireland in some senses because I think for Ireland, they want to sort of calm their crowd down as much as possible, put a 10-point gap, manage the game from there, they'll be fine. But if it's what it was last year where they needed Crowley to get a try and a conversion to win it, like that's not going to be a problem for them. So yeah, I mean, I would have been if you showed me only the Ireland team, I'd have been like, oh, Australia could do something here. But the Australian team has sort of, like you said, thrown that out of the window. So yeah, I think it should be Ireland. I think Ireland still have the better pack. Um, I still think the kicking game they can manage better. Like Prendergast obviously is fantastic with that. Gibson Park is a gun with that as well. And yes, maybe Ireland's backline isn't the most flashy in the world, but having Hansen there can help their attack just by having a second playmaker there that can at least give their attack a bit more dynamism than what they were struggling with. Um, James Ryan will be so happy they don't have to play Will Skelton this week. So I'm sure he'll be man of the match this week as well. So I think there's enough there. Like Tyke Byrne is obviously going to, I think, play like sort of another extra 10% no Van der Fleer there. Doris has been playing now for 2 weeks in a row. So maybe Ireland, I mean, a lot of them have only played like 3 games essentially since, the Lions series. They should be one of those teams that get beaten this November. Whereas with Australia, this is the end of their season. So, if you get a lead against Australia, will they let go of the rope? But we also know Australia love a comeback. So, yeah, this could be a very confusing game.
yeah. If you look at that backline, the Wallaby backline, that is their first choice backline. You could argue Kellaway starts.
Yeah.
But other than that, like those are their best players. So there's that. But we know that they don't have the legs to go all the way. And then you look at the bench and like who's going to finish the game, and that's when you get worried. Like I would be more comfortable if Carter Gordon was there because like he's shown that he's got a little bit more than Edmed. I know it's only one game and we give the guys time. But you're right. I think like Ireland need to do Ireland things. The reason why Ireland got done so bad against New Zealand was New Zealand picked up what they were doing, managed to fix it in the
Yeah.
game well enough, and then just exploited them. Because Ireland are very much, this is what we'll do, and we will do it at nauseum because we know it works. So So if you can beat them at that and then just disrupt it a little bit. So they will definitely be changing. So there might be a change of game plan or some slight nuances that change that Australia, are they going to be good enough to pick it up and target it? I don't think so right now because they're trying to find themselves. So it is a bit weird. Um, the first 20 minutes is going to be great to watch. I think there's that. Like that's the one thing. And then we'll just have to see. I do feel the backline are going to be feeding off scraps. Like
Yeah.
if they when it's on, then O'Connor's going to have to go. But he started to manage the games so much better recently. Like where he kicks the corner when he makes that kick, kicks the corner, manages the plays, sorts it out,
Yeah.
etc.
And if you kick too long, you get the ball to Jorgensen with space, that's a problem. That
And
is
Dagun is
that's
there
no.
to help him, who has no problem running right center mast, or he can run around you.
Yeah. I think that's maybe the one thing I wouldn't do against James Lowe is have a wing that runs direct. I think now with James Lowe, I mean, and, a lot of obviously jokes about how that he's slowing up now. I'd rather have like a Corey Toole or someone like that he has to chase around for 80 minutes and really make that old man wheeze and pant as much as possible. So yeah, but like Dalgun is also just a broken play specialist. So it'll be interesting because I think Ireland are trying to be more of a counter-attacking broken play team, but they just don't have the facilities for that. Maybe Tommy O'Brien can do it. I guess Hansen will help with that, but it's not what they have right now. So yeah, this game I think will be so interesting.
One thing I want to say about Hansen can totally manufacture stuff out of nowhere. He really does have great vision, especially like it shows when he's playing at 15, like with those kick returns. Like
Yeah.
if his two wingers are on the same page, Low should be, okay, but the wingers are on the same page and a flanker is joined in to assist. Like if they are going to figure out what he's going to do, he will make a gap or draw in two players. So there will be something there. And Australia might scramble and you get two guys doing the same thing because they feel like they've been caught out because they're still coming to terms with everything. Then Ireland could just steamroll you.
Yeah. Let's go to the game that's at the same time, which is France versus Fiji. So we don't have the Fiji team out right now, unfortunately. So we can talk about the French team at the moment. They made a few changes from the South Africa game. Obviously, a lot of injuries came from that. Um, I think the big ones are Charles Olivon coming in to play at lock. So he's partnering with Miafu. There's no Flamand. You have Aldred coming back at 8 with Giard being injured himself. You have a Barasin Deporte center combination with no Fiku. The bench, I think, is a lot younger than it was in the South Africa game. So you have the likes of Laclayette and Netty and Jeannot and Gaeton that are on the bench and Lamotte as well. So I think France, I wouldn't say it's a full rotation. Maybe if they won, they would have maybe risked maybe a few more players, maybe given like a Jalibert a start, whatever the case is. They're playing this in Bordeaux, I think because the football team is playing in Stade France this weekend. I mean, Fiji is obviously a lot better than they have been the last, 4 years or whatever the case is. So obviously it's a bit of a banana skin game. Yeah, what do France do in order to just make sure that this game is as manageable as possible and you don't give the Waningolos and the Trusovas and the Ravovos as much chances as possible?
I really feel it hinges so much on Lucu, and I know so much of the French game kind of revolves around their nines, but that's quite a big pack that they've named, and there are a couple of like wily old competitors there. Like there's some big guys, but some well-experienced guys. Lucu is, and obviously Ntamak. I think Ntamak's struggling a little bit with form, but he really the Ntamak really plays how his team plays. Like I haven't seen him recently like really single-handedly lift a team up, a la Johnny Sexton, he's like getting the crowd together. So like I think it hinges on Luku, and I really feel that they need to just not overly dominate up front because I feel they will. You know what I mean? Like I just think you need to do the little things really well. You don't need to make the 5 meters, but make the 3 meters every time. And make the guys turn, 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 and then let the backs go and score because Their outside backs are brilliant. It's about 10, 12, and 13 that I'm scared are going to get a bad ball when something is rushed, and then they're going to get absolutely cut in half, and that changes everything. And then the backup 10, so I think Ramos is the only real recognized backup 10. Then obviously Lucu can play there. Legaric got injured, so he's not on the bench. I thought we might see Baptiste Serran, especially now with having he could have been a 10 option on the bench as a 9. So there's that. So
Look, Sean, I
yeah,
assume every scrum half in France can play fly
yes.
half. So
It's
Jeannot probably can play fly half himself.
it's part of the contract. It's just the way, and you must kick for goals. So yeah, I think it's big. And then the bench is quite interesting. I'm a big fan of Bodehunt, and I think he's like just a big, strong. Like I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to get there. He's like an ego-driven player, really, really big guy. So I really think he wants to get stuck in someone's face. And then Galton as well. But if Fiji are in this game with 30 minutes to go,
Yeah.
I don't think this bench can come on for France and kind of be a bomb squad and just be like, cool, we'll take control. I
Yeah.
think everything that all the control the French have is in that starting lineup, and it needs to be done in the first 60.
Yeah. I agree. Like I don't this is a very inexperienced bench. I think if I can sort of do a quick like calculation, I think only Tafi Fanua, Budon have more than 15 caps, maybe. Aradu probably has about 10, and Gaiton probably has around 10. Everyone else probably has like a handful of caps. So you have a front row that is inexperienced. I mean, Neti is 30, so it's not like he's young, but he's inexperienced at test level. You have, you know, Jeannot's a 21-year-old, insanely talented, but 21-year-old at scrum half. So if Luca goes off early, like he's managing a game against obviously the likes of Soakula and those sort of people chasing you around. So then I think there's a lot of responsibility. And that's kind of, I think, why Oscar Jegu's starting at 7 and Budon is on the bench. Is Budon time for Fanua sort of playing daddy daycare with the rest of the forwards and being like, okay, you follow our lead, you follow what we do. So if this game is tight in the second half, you just follow what we do. But I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we'll see all 6 of them coming on unless France are ahead by 20 odd points. And I think Gaultier will be more wise to sort of bleed in players than what he did in the game last week. Because, yeah, unfortunately for France in the South Africa game, their bench was just neutralized. Like they came on and they all did this whole 6-2 bomb squad situation. And South Africa just shrugged their shoulders and just went on with it. So just really didn't have much of an impact. So I think this will be a game where they sort of are managed. Look, on the Fiji side, look, they obviously played decently well, and they were, I think, the sorry about that. I think the scorecard didn't reflect, I think, how the game went for them. And they're a much better team and manage these things a lot better than they were a few years ago. Caleb Muntz makes such a big difference. And I think he's kind of similar to Intermark, where he wants to play in the right areas, and he's kind of the adult in the room that calms everything down, where obviously all these outside players are playing so well. So I think for Fiji, look, they only had 8 penalties conceded against England. I mean, they had 2 yellow cards, so that's not great. Their set pieces were close to 100%. They didn't, they I think made 80% of their tackles. They kicked 29 times. If they can sort of do those like test matchy things, do that, you'll have the opportunities, especially against France with the likes of Ramos doing crazy things. There'll be enough opportunities for Tuisova and Wainkola and those sort of players to do their best. So they just need to manage this game. And I think, Sean, it's about just staying in the game and making, the crowd panic and the team panic because, like you said, they can see that this bench is not as a weaker bench here.
Yeah, it's huge. Like even with like there's so many of those backline players that don't need an opportunity to do something. They can more often than not make an opportunity out of absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
They can more often than not give you an opportunity out of nothing as well, to be fair. But like there is that. So be competitive up front. Just plant that seed of doubt, and then the backline is the better test match animal than the pack, in that you can kick for the corner, you've got options, you've got short balls, long balls, and just crazy outside backs. So I would think I think they have more chance than what they've had in the past.
Yeah.
And it'll be very interesting. It's also their second game. I didn't expect a hell of a lot from them against England. They did a lot more than what I even thought they would give. Second week together, no major injury issues as far as I know.
I don't think.
So they could be naming a full strength side, and there's a bit of continuity there. And obviously, France is like home away from home for so many of those Fijian players.
Yeah.
Like there's that added extra of spice.
Yeah, yeah. You just don't want a situation, especially because France kick long as well. There's so many opportunities for Rayasi to get the ball with 20 meters of space to run into or Kolo, and those guys weekly in the top 14 score tries from their own try line. So yeah, this could be very interesting. Like we've try to buy a second TV if you can, because I think trying to watch this and the Ireland Australia game, I think will be must watches. Sean, on the other games, we can go through them quite quickly. Wales versus Japan. Wales, I think, have announced a pretty, like, this is sort of their bigger team. Like, we're not messing about. This is our physical team. We need to win this game. And I think for Wales, it doesn't matter how ugly it is. They need to have more points than Japan at the end of this game.
Yeah, it's so weird, but I think they need to have more points by like 10. But Wales will take any win, anything.
Yeah.
They'll take a half a point win, like maybe even a draw. Ooh, but don't quote me on that. So they have named like a strong side, Reece Zammit starting again, which is great. I think he had a little bit of a niggle last week. And then obviously they've named Darby Lake as their captain after, oh, I had a
Morgan.
blank. Who?
Jack Morgan.
Jack Morgan. Sorry, after Jack Morgan's injury. They could really get done with him in this game, but to be fair, rather this way around than maybe getting injured against Japan and then having to face Argentina next. So I think they can do the job without him. Aaron Wainwright is playing. I know that he came off and they were a bit worried about him. I know it came out that it was just cramps and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a game. Japan and Eddie Jones really need to pick a game to target to go and win. Like that's kind of how they operate. They've really got to pick one game that they really work on hard. And I think that game's come and gone. I think Australia might have been it. And then maybe this is it. Maybe they come up with something special, but I don't think so. I think if Wales lose this game, it will be because Wales really just didn't play well, dropped a lot of balls, messed up their line outs, stuff like that. They should go on and win comfortably. And I mean, imagine Reece Zammit getting a hat trick on his starting return, and all is good in Welsh rugby again. Then, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Eddie was probably targeting this game. So I mean, obviously they played them twice in July in the July series, so they know each other quite well. So this is, I think, a good opportunity for Eddie and for Japan just to put a stake in the ground. There's a big implication for rankings, because I think the one team is 12th and the other team is 13th. So one of them will fall into that third sort of tier of teams where you now could be put in a group with New Zealand and Scotland, or Argentina and South Africa or something like that. So especially for a Wales that has, I mean, I think for both, they want to be in a situation where they can at least dream of qualifying the last 16. So this is big, I think, for those ranking points. So I can see Japan trying to sort of keep up the pace. Obviously, we know what to expect from an Eddie Jones Japan team and how they play and everything like that. For Wales, it looks like, especially with them picking like Nicky Smith and Adam Beard and those sort of like more experienced, like heavy players, that they're just going to try to destroy them up front. I mean, Ollie
Absolutely.
Cracknell as well, like just experienced players that can just get the job done and set piece, get the job in the collisions and try to build it up. But yeah, I mean, their bench doesn't look too impressive to be fair. So yeah, I mean, I think this will be the most tense the Cardiff Stadium is going to be in a while. So they need
Oh,
this
I don't
game
know.
because
They
yeah.
would they would love it if this was the only most tense they would be. And then just found out it seems like the Welsh Rugby Union are potentially looking at a side playing in the Premiership or playing in England somewhere after then committing that the URC. Oh, it's a shit show. Just a shit show.
Yeah, just what the Welsh rugby team needs, They're usually very quiet rugby union to make a statement a day before a game. Yeah.
Listen, what I am going to say is as much as this game impacts the rankings, it will happen so that they are both drawn in the same World Cup group anyway, and they will be playing each other for a spot in the quarterfinal that they so desperately need. Just thought I'd let you know.
Well, I mean, Wales is usually drawn with Australia and Fiji, so I'm wondering if the chance of that are still available for that because we have usually the same groups for rugby. Quickly, the other Saturday tests, you have Georgia versus Canada happening in Tbilisi. You have Romania hosting the USA. You have Portugal versus Hong Kong. All six teams in the World Cup. Good preparations for them. I think it's great. I mean, I would love to see maybe some highlights of the Hong Kong Portugal game because I don't think I've seen Hong Kong play, so it'd be really cool to see how they go. Obviously, they've qualified for the World Cup for the first time, so that'll be very interesting to see. So looking forward to both of
Massive
those.
South African influence from some time back. Like there are a load of South Africans that played for Hong Kong like 10-ish years ago. A lot of the Ikeys old boys I know,
Yeah.
Slates and a couple of Matt Rossley played and all that. Like so quite a few guys played Test match rugby for Hong Kong back in the day.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong is being quite aggressive at getting any expats and basically finding anyone who has like some connection to the country. They're doing like free like ancestry tests for people, just being like, hey, you haven't played test rugby, you can play for Hong Kong, can't you? So they've been
Absolutely.
quite aggressive with that, which, all power to them. They should do that.
Yeah, beautiful place.
And yeah, I mean, I don't think people complain of playing there. Then yeah, Spain's playing England A, Uruguay's playing All Blacks, the All Blacks 15. I'm hoping it's a full strength Uruguay side. Then on Sunday, we don't have the teams for it, but Scotland playing Argentina. This is also kind of a escalator match because England seem to have now moved on to be part of the big boys. So the top five is their own sort of tier. So basically, after that, it seems like Australia's fallen away. So it's between Scotland and Argentina who heads up the chasing pack. So they're not part of that first leading peloton. They're sort of in that trailing one. So, good opportunity for Scotland to go, look, we're the ones that are the next ones up. We beat Australia. We beat everyone else below us. Also, good opportunity for Argentina just to be like, look, we can be consistent. We know we're not just a team that beats New Zealand or what or South Africa once in a while. We're actually the team that's next up. So yeah, I can see this game being massive. I'm really looking forward to it.
Cracking game. Scotland really entering into that game with its must win for them, especially because of how disappointed they were from last week. Argentina have a freebie, but they're also going to be hunting a win. It's not like they're like, oh, we've got our win. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Argentina got quite a few youngsters in there that played quite well, and a couple of the old boys that were really cooking could potentially be the match of the weekend and a great way to end the weekend of rugby because it's going to be entertaining no matter what.
Yeah. So Argentina, they've got England after this. So I think this is the game they're kind of targeting because I mean the Wales one was kind of a freebie. So this is a game they can target to get that win and for their interview tour to be a success. Scotland have both, it seems like Ferguson and Finn Russell will both be in the team because Russell
Yes,
had an injury down.
I saw Finn looks like he'll play.
Yeah, and Zander Ferguson is massive for them. So I think that'll make a difference as well. So yeah, I think Scotland should feel relatively confident if they have both players in there. Sean, yeah, I mean, this is a chock-a-block weekend of rugby. I think there's a lot of teams, a lot of games that could really go either way. and we'll learn a lot from a lot of these teams too. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. You know where you can find us on Monday or Tuesday when we release our podcast, wrapping all of this up, looking at all of these games. So thank you for joining us on our Rugby Bet podcast. Follow us on our social media channels. Listen to this podcast on Spotify or YouTube, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.